Good morning, it's David Combe with the CBS Morning Report. It's Tuesday the 3rd of May, just past 8:30 AM here in the Sydney office, and interesting conclusion to US trading last night after the seemingly after the jubilation over the Osama capture. The markets focused kind of on the realities, it seems, and after what's been an absolutely cracking corporate earnings season, the focus must now come back to earnings and where to from here. And it's got to be a question on everyone's mind, or every investor's mind, as to just how long it'll be before some of these commodity costs start to creep into company earnings going forward. So yeah, just what sort of effect that will have on the bottom line of company profits. The other issue might be that investors want to consider taking profits, given that that'll be playing in their mind. And to use a pretty tired cliche, the old "sell in May and go away" saying comes to mind. So what do they actually mean? All in all, well, the Dow closed down just 3.18 points to 12,807. The S&P 500 broader index there was down slightly more, and the Nasdaq a little bit more again, 1/3%, and the rest of the Americas was down in line with that as well. Europe very, very slightly up, mostly. In our region, we had the Nikkei closing up 154, Hang Seng down 84, and then our index had a bit of a wild ride there, down certainly quite strongly initially. I think it was about 50 points around the middle of the day, and then as news broke about Osama, the market started to move back up to close pretty much square, or just a little bit above. So in terms of where our market is headed, looks like we're taking a little bit of that slightly down lead, continuing on from yesterday morning's session. SPY down 21, Hang Seng down 115, and the Nikkei down 20. Moving on to have a look now at the commodity space. We've got West Texas at 112.99. Now that's down nearly a dollar, and I know we put a oil report out yesterday afternoon. Jonathan put that together, and certainly we are expecting to see further weakness there if our suppositions are proved to be correct, which is basically there's no reason for the price to be up here. In terms of the Osama effect on the Middle East, it's a little bit hard, I think, to draw any conclusions at this point as to what that might mean, but certainly we have large inventories there, and it really does suggest that it doesn't need to be up these sort of levels. Anyway, moving on. Oh, I know I didn't touch on the natural gas here. Down just 0.5% here, and we did get some warrants set on Thursday night, but sadly not everyone, or not the bulk of clients that opted to take up the natural gas warrant. Markets sort of got away from us there, and we didn't want to chase it, so we'll hope to get the rest of, or everyone else, set on that over coming sessions. Okay, now to the soft commodities. I just want to rattle through the big movers here. It looks like corn was down pretty significantly, nearly 3%. Cotton 2.26. Bit of a mixed bag elsewhere. Oats down 2.7. So some fairly big moves on the grains. To the upside, rough rice up 1.77. That was a reasonably big move, and that was about it there. Copper down just slightly. That's 0.4 of a cent. And gold down $10 to $15.46. And silver, really big move there, again following on from yesterday's move down, so we've been up in the 50s, now at 43. I think we did suggest to everyone that when silver came off, it would come off in a very significant move. So I hope anyone that was long silver there had taken appropriate steps to shield themselves from that kind of a move. Okay, moving on to commodities, currencies rather. Just get this thing out of the way here. Okay, euro buying 1.4827 US dollars, the pound buying 1.6651, and the US dollar buying 81.2198 yen, the Aussie buying 1.0939 USD, and the US dollar buying 95.16 Canadian, and just 0.8651 Swiss francs. Let's take a look now at the economic calendar here. Okay, so we have just had, no we haven't, sorry, wrong date. Just fix that up. Wondering why that was missing a Monday on it. That would have been Easter Monday. Okay, apologies about that. Okay, so Tuesday, the 3rd of May, that's better. Construction spending came in better than expected number, 1.4 versus 0.4. Manufacturing numbers a little bit better than expected there. We've got some New Zealand data out in 1 minute, average hourly earnings. Then we've got some Chinese non-manufacturing producer and manufacturers PMI data. Being the first Tuesday of the month, we've got the RBA rates decision. Looks like the consensus there, I haven't actually been keeping too close an eye on this, but it does remain at 4.75. Probably the risk is to the upside though. I think we wouldn't get too much argument on that. Later on this afternoon we've got Purchasing Manager Index data out of the UK, PPI out of Europe, which is a reasonably significant one, and then going into tomorrow's US factory orders for March coming in towards midnight tonight. Okay, so I'd like to just move on here and have a look at a couple of stocks, a couple of trade ideas here. One to watch here that's taken a little bit of a dive here. I think partly on the back of US dollar strength is CSL. So any sort of dip down here into the 34s here is certainly an odd level of resistance, and we've got an inner upward trend line, so a further dip back here and some Aussie dollar weakness I think would be a pretty good buying opportunity on that particular stock. Then we've got Fleetwood. Now, Fleetwood have over recent sessions been sort of consolidating here at this $11 level. Now, those of you that aren't familiar with the stock, they, amongst other things, make mining villages. So these are basically almost small towns that are set up for the various operations. So very stable earnings flows, pays a good dividend, and to my mind been a bit overdone here to the south side, and maybe we're due for a bit of a move back up to $12 at the very least, I would have thought. Okay, another one to consider is something that I think I perennially talk about, and that's Kingsgate Consolidated. Low-cost gold producer based up in Thailand. I think a lot of the Dominion shareholders or the takeover target have probably sold out of their Kingsgate shares by now, and this is really looking like a pretty solid floor here. Certainly we know where we'd have our stop losses, and yes, whether or not we can see that trade that back up to 9 and longer term 10 and even 11. Might be getting a little bit ahead of myself there, but I quite like the look of that. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on what the Vector Vest system is showing us this morning at the Zoox Top Picks. Lucas, still a standout there, has been for quite some time. Equinox, Tribune Resources, Medusa, Mesa Blast, Flight Setter coming in at 6th, Focus, APY, index, and MIN, mineral resources. And then rounding out, I think around the top 10 there is Rio, being the top picks there. Now, just worth mentioning that that isn't necessarily a recommendation to do anything, because right now the what's called the colour guard is indicating a more bearish sentiment, and in fact the number of buys versus the number of sells is quite low. So in fact the suggestion is that one sits on the sidelines until some of this volatility is taken out, and we get a better expectation of consistency rather than some of the moves we've had in the last few weeks here. So continue to watch that one. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks, hope you found that worthwhile, and until next time, bye-bye.